This is a production of WTVI PBS Charlotte.
Just ahead on Carolina Impact, Charlotte Douglas International Airport could soon have one of the highest jet fuel taxes in the country, unless lawmakers take action. What's at stake and how could it impact your wallet? Plus,
a local woman gets national recognition for her work getting women off the streets and on the road to recovery. Tonight, I'll show you how that program works.
And meet a missionary family who didn't have to travel far to make a difference. Don't go anywhere. Carolina Impact starts right now.
WTVI PBS Charlotte presents Carolina Impact, covering the issues, people, and places that impact you. This is Carolina Impact. Funding for Carolina Impact is provided by the members of WTVI PBS Charlotte and by
the Philip L. Van Every Foundation is pleased to support our region's arts organizations and artists with profiles and feature stories on Carolina Impact.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Amy Burkett. Lawmakers in Raleigh say they don't like giving handouts of public tax dollars to private companies. But what if that private company is the state's #1 airline, responsible for hundreds of flights at Charlotte Douglas International Airport and thousands of jobs statewide? Carolina Impact's Jeff Saunier joins me with more on the debate over the tax breaks for U.S. Airways' new owner, American Airlines.
Well, Amy, this will be a test for state senators and House members. Many are politically and philosophically against corporate giveaways, but they also want to protect that all-important hub out at CLT and the huge boost it gives to the rest of North Carolina's economy.
Ladies and gentlemen, U.S. Airways, welcome to Charlotte, where the correct local time is 8:35.
Yep, welcome to the 7th busiest airport in the world for takeoffs and landings. Charlotte's also #6 in the U.S., if you're just counting passengers.
I wish that I could fly into the sky so very high.
But there's one airport top 10 list that Charlotte's trying to stay away from.
Oh, I want to get away. I want to fly away. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Rolling the dice. Why roll the dice when you've got so much to lose?
Charlotte Regional Partnership President Ronnie Bryan says no way Douglas Airport should have the 5th highest jet fuel tax in the country, but it could happen if lawmakers in Raleigh don't renew rebates for the airlines on jet fuel sales tax. Actually, most airlines fueling up in Charlotte don't get back a dime. In fact, only one airline, U.S. Airways, flies enough and buys enough fuel to qualify. We've got the state records that show U.S. Airways receiving jet fuel tax refunds from Raleigh up to $16.5 million a year and over $38 million in 4 years, all to help make sure the airline's huge hub stays here in Charlotte.
You gas it up. You buy a lot of fuel. Does it make sense to do it here or move that to Philly or somewhere and have those connectors fly into that airport? They could move that easily, very easily. So it's very important that we remain a very cost-competitive market.
But not everybody agrees that U.S. Airways, now merged with American Airlines, deserves or even needs the money anymore.
Now, fuel prices have lowered significantly. Airline profits are rising. Airlines are charging travelers all sorts of fees, and they're still saying they have to get this tax break.
Adam Lalowitz is an analyst for the union that represents 900 airport and airline food service workers here in Charlotte. He joins us via Skype from his office in Chicago. And do you think that the political climate has changed to the point where you've got lawmakers who might be reluctant to extend something that's been in place for so many years?
Yeah, and I think that lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, this is not a union versus corporation issue. This is a special tax handout that only benefits one company. It's an even more egregious example of crony capitalism and of politicians interfering with the free market and picking favorites.
Well, it's certainly a very odd structure for a tax, however you argue it.
UNC Charlotte economist Dr. Peter Schwartz watches the airlines, and he agrees that the old U.S. Airways is probably getting special treatment in Raleigh, but also that the airline's big Charlotte hub is probably worth those millions in jet fuel tax refunds. Still, despite the savings, don't set your sights on cheaper Charlotte flights anytime soon, not when the planes are mostly full already.
They're kind of like a very popular restaurant at this point where, all the reservations are taken. So such an enterprise doesn't have a strong reason to say that's a signal that we should lower our prices.
Okay, so how about the airline customers? Well, they don't know much about jet fuel taxes or corporate exemptions, but they do know about higher airfares, and they've got opinions they'll share about how much it's costing them to get where they want to go.
The ticket's pretty expensive. We travel quite a bit, and it adds up. I can.
Turns out we didn't even have to interview the passengers. We just handed them an iPhone, and they pretty much interviewed themselves.
It doesn't matter if you reserve it 3 or 4 months ahead of time or 2 days before. It's pretty expensive.
I was actually just getting ready to go see if I could fly standby to see what that would cost me.
I really would appreciate if the airfares came down quite a bit.
Now, we also asked American Airlines about the sales tax rebates for jet fuel. They didn't want to talk about it on camera, but the union that opposes those tax rebates points out that American did make $24,000 in North Carolina campaign donations right before the November elections to some of the same lawmakers who will be voting on those tax breaks, Amy.
Okay, Jeff, so the question is, when will that vote take place?
Well, this will probably be part of a bigger budget bill, which is actually a break for some of the lawmakers. They won't have to vote individually on the tax breaks, but keep an eye on the committee meetings in Raleigh, because that's where lawmakers will go back and forth on whether these tax breaks should be in the budget bill or not.
But it really is a critical issue to the viability of that hub staying here.
It is. The hub is so important to not just the Charlotte region, but the economy of the entire state. But again, U.S. Airways / American Airlines does get privileges, does get an opportunity here that other airlines don't get, and some people say that's just wrong.
Thanks so much, Jeff Jollner. We appreciate your information. Well, here's a question for you. Why do you think bad things happen in our lives? Sure, many times it's the result of our own bad choices, but I like to think it's so we can help others going through similar problems. Next, we meet a woman who has turned her hardship into a way to help others. Recently, Sharon Funderburk received national recognition through L'Oreal Paris's Women of Worth program for her work helping women in Gastonia. We'll talk more about the recognition shortly, but first, Carolina Impact's Danielle Koser explains how women battling drug and alcohol addiction are finding refuge through the Off the Streets program.
This house may not look like much, tucked away on a quiet, dead-end road in Gastonia. Today, the skies are as gray as the shutters. Bitter wind blows through the trees. Inside, the mood changes. Women fill the living room like a family.
Oh yeah, they all call me Mama Sharon.
But she's not their real mom. This isn't your ordinary home. This is a recovery house, the heart of a nonprofit called Off the Streets. Founder Sharon Funderburk makes the house rules. Wash and put away the dishes, clean out the fridge. That's just the start.
Because, life gets sucked out of you.
The program helps women who are battling drug, alcohol addiction, and more.
And these streets are something Sharon knows well. Shortly after high school, she spent 12 years in and out of jail and on and off these streets. The last 2 years, she was homeless.
I was tired of not knowing where my next meal was going to come from, not knowing where I was going to sleep at.
Sharon calls herself a force to be reckoned with. While she's developed a tough exterior, her heart remains tender when talking about her past.
For a real long time, that was my only dream. Just wanted to get off the streets.
As for how she ended up on the streets, that's not an easy story to tell either. She says a group of men repeatedly gang raped her when she was just 11. Shortly after high school graduation, she turned to drugs to try to numb the pain. But she says the drugs were a temporary fix. Before long, they became the problem, leading her into a life of prostitution and homelessness.
I remember sitting across the street on the sidewalk, and that's when I started contemplating, what can I do to get out?
Determined to get clean, Sharon found refuge at her mom's house. She stopped using drugs in 1994.
That's my personal cross.
A year so monumental, she wears it around her neck. Like a trophy, it showcases her success.
I'm not gentle, but I'm compassionate.
Since 2003, Sharon has used that compassion to help hundreds of women here at Off the Streets. She has a bachelor's degree and is a certified substance abuse coordinator. The program accepts women who have a history of drug use. They typically stay between 4 months and a year.
You gotta be wanting to recover. You wanna regain which was lost.
When 53-year-old Kim Springer entered the program, she had lost just about everything. She says she started using drugs to escape the guilt and shame she felt after having an affair. One bad choice after another ended her marriage of over 20 years and pushed her 3 children away.
They went from having a mom who was all about them and what was going on in their world to basically falling off the face of the earth.
Springer spent years battling addiction. By the time she moved in, she says she was emotionally, mentally, and financially bankrupt.
I had to resort to taking a waitress job like I had in college.
She also took on 5 roommates. 2 twin beds fill each of the 3 bedrooms, and Sharon says there's never a shortage of women who need a place to recover.
When one emptied, it was filled.
Springer didn't have a problem following Mama Sharon's rules. Experts say for people in recovery, a routine is key, partly because structure helps recovering addicts feel in control, which can build self-esteem.
When I first got clean, I lived with a sense of not good enough.
Sharon also helps them build self-esteem through life skills class.
And we're gonna focus on the can. And you can become a fully functioning member of society.
Outside of class, they all follow the same 12-step program, which helps keep their mind and body free from the very thing that used to consume them.
Only thing was on my mind was using drugs.
I think I lost me more than anything else. I lost myself.
Marcia Woolfolk and Deanna Floyd have never lived in the house, but they're both actively involved in Off the Streets. Woolfolk is a veteran of the program. She's been clean for about 10 years and works as the house manager. Floyd just celebrated 9 months drug-free. Now she's back in school to get her GED. These women, all from different walks of life, share more than a history of addiction. They share the love of this unconventional family.
A lot of love, unconditional love.
So when these ladies finally put their lives back together, and I know that they're struggling to keep it together, yeah, I got their back.
Mama Sharon's got their back. Now, side by side, these women navigate the difficult road of recovery. For Carolina Impact, I'm Danielle Koser reporting.
Thanks so much, Danielle. Joining me now is Marilyn Gore, Board President of Off the Streets Incorporated. Marilyn, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
You know, it's always nice to see people getting help to improving their lives and to be recognized for it. So for the head of your organization to receive that national award by L'Oreal, talk to us a little bit. You actually nominated her for it, didn't you?
Yes, I did, because I felt that Sharon is a woman of worth. She works all the time with Off the Street with no pay and just does exceptionally well. I've had the opportunity to sit in on some of the drug classes that she's offered for the girls or women, and it's just really, she just knows her stuff and just helps them in any way that she can to get off the streets.
Well, when we talk about helping, about how many women a year are able to take advantage of this program?
In any given year, it's about 40 women that are helped, and this is the 11th year of Off the Streets. And over the period of time, she's helped about 746 women.
That's an amazing accomplishment, because you truly see how one woman can make a difference. And when you talk about some of the changes that the women now, sometimes when you contribute, you have more ownership. So one of the new things that you're doing is the women do have to contribute a daily rate to help to offset some of the expenses of their room and board. Tell us about that.
Yes, they pay $10 a day now, and that goes into a fund to help them also, because as I said, Sharon doesn't get paid for helping for running the program, and we're always looking for grants to help us with the program. So the girls now have ownership. They can say that this is my program, even though the ones that didn't pay the $10 a day had ownership. But this, it makes it more, I feel, meaningful for them.
They're contributing towards their own success and the success of the organization. Talk to us a little bit about what is the success rate? We often hear that sometimes people who have drug addictions are challenged to come clean and recover, and they sometimes have relapses. What's your success rate, and how long does it take before you feel like you've really sort of conquered that addiction to drugs?
Okay, the success rate for Off the Street is about 88%, which is remarkable because most of the times with substance abuse and alcoholic users, it's only 2% success rate. And so Sharon really works with the ladies and some men, because they are men that come to the NA meetings that are held on Tuesday and Thursday. So she helps those people too with their problems. So,
Marilyn Gore, we thank you for all that you do in our community to help people overcome some challenges and enjoy better lives. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, you know what? It's been almost 2 years since my family and I went on a mission trip to Haiti. It was truly a life-changing experience, but you don't have to leave our region to make a difference in the lives of hurting people. The Hinson family from Rowan County calls a South Carolina mobile home park their mission field. Carolina Impact's Danielle Koser has that story.
Lancaster County's Countryside Mobile Home Park has a reputation of being a problem area.
We might have a domestic today, we may have a larceny tomorrow, we may have a noise complaint tomorrow. It just varies.
Sheriff Vail says deputies respond to calls here several times a week for things like burglary, theft, even drive-by shootings.
You do hear gunshots. Can it be fearful? Not a lot. Maybe in the beginning more than now. We just firmly believe that God is protecting us and that He has us in His hands.
Mommy, I want to sit beside you.
So why would a family of 4 from rural Rowan County move out of their 2,000 square foot home to live here, to share in the heartache of their new neighbors?
We've seen some children removed from the home by DSS. That has been hard.
And it's during those times of hurt the couple steps up to offer help and hope.
We care that they need help, and we care that they may not have a ride, and we care that they are struggling with their child or their child struggling in school, and we want to be able to help them.
They used to watch our daughter for us sometimes.
Last year, Ken Wade and LaQuisha Hingleton's world was turned upside down when their little girl, Malaya, died after being hit by a car. She was only 15 months old. And at times like this, the Hinsons say their faith motivates them to take action.
After the little girl died, we set up a food schedule from the different churches. And so just in little ways like that, we're able to show that we care and that we love and that God cares, and He's sent us here to do things like that.
A mission, Amber says, can be exhausting.
The challenge that I feel the most is finding a balance. Because we live here, we do minister 24/7.
Reverend Grant, you're a great man, and I love you.
It's a job that's demanding, and a job these parents of 2 don't get paid for.
She hasn't had a job since March of 2013. I haven't had a job since May 1st of 2013.
Even though Grant and Amber both have college degrees, they walked away from steady jobs with steady paychecks when they moved here. Grant has a background in accounting, and
I've got my master's in Christian leadership. You know, I could be at a very nice big church making a very nice salary.
Meanwhile, Amber is a registered nurse. She's also back in school to be a nurse practitioner. The couple relies on donations to pay the bills. And thanks to donations, they've been able to use this second mobile home as a community center. It's called The Connection.
They tape paper on the van.
On this day, Grant and Amber, along with volunteers from a local church, are hosting a program called Homework Helpers.
You have 4 aides.
They meet twice a week.
Knowing that God gave us those abilities, God gave us those strengths, not so that we are comfortable, not so that we look good, but that His name is glorified.
So how long are the Hinsons planning to stay at Countryside? Grant says there's no clear answer.
We don't know. We might be 60 years old. and still be in the same trailer.
Just looking at our life before, where we would work and we would come home and we were happy, but that's just all it was just us.
For now, the couple says they are exactly where they need to be to help others.
I think they have made a difference over there in that community already.
I just hope everything stays this way now that they here.
I love you.
Praise for a couple working to change this community, one step at a time. The Hinsons say moving into this mobile home park wasn't a turn they expected life to take. But right now they can't imagine raising their family anywhere else. For Carolina Impact, I'm Danielle Koser reporting.
Thanks so much, Danielle. You can keep up with the Hinson family online. Amber blogs about their journey on her website, and you can find a link to it on our Carolina Impact page at pbscharlotte.org. When you think of art, what comes to mind? A museum, an art gallery? Well, our next story features local artists' work popping up on a pretty unusual but eye-catching canvas. Carolina Impact senior producer Rick Fitz explains why you just might have to take your foot off the pedal to enjoy it.
Art Pop's mission is to promote local artists' work through available billboard space. Art Pop was my idea, and Adams Outdoor Advertising is my employer, and they're gracious enough to let me do this program here. So I took this idea to the Arts and Science Council.
It's a really fantastic opportunity for us as the local arts agency to use available billboard space to platform and celebrate the work of local artists in a community on the biggest canvas imaginable.
We had an amazing turnout for this year. We actually more than doubled last year's artist submissions. We had 112 artists submit this year.
We are choosing 20 artists' works to travel throughout the marketplace. So those will go up. Where you see them today may not be where they're going to be 2 and 3 weeks from now, so you'll consistently see different pieces of artwork all throughout the market.
Such a wonderful opportunity to see art in the community in such a easily accessed way.
To see art as a celebration, and that's what I think Art Pop is. It's a celebration of the arts.
Can you imagine looking up at a 40-some-odd foot representation of your work? It's kind of mind-boggling.
I just think gourds are so beautiful. They're just so interesting, the shapes, the different textures that you can find with gourds. And I really wanted to bring that beauty out to show people that gourd crafting is not something that's sort of kitschy, but it really can be elevated to a high art form. I selected that image or that work because it's one of the pieces that I just really love.
I started out pretty much just sketching like anybody else. I got a Wacom, learned how to draw on the Wacom. I never looked back. The child blowing the bubbles is called dark matter because the childlike creativity within all of us, that basically everything that we enjoy as far as entertainment-wise comes from that childlike imagination. So it exists and it influences us day to day as adults, even though we might not necessarily know that it's there.
For an individual to even conceive of promoting themselves or their work in that kind of a space and scope would be pretty hard to imagine. It's an extraordinary opportunity to get your work seen by an entire metro area in a form and frame that you probably wouldn't be able to afford otherwise.
Thanks so much, Rick. The Arts and Science Council is partnering with Adams Outdoor Advertising to offer this program in the Charlotte region. You can find out more on our website at pbscharlotte.org. Before we go, I want to remind you about our second annual PBS Charlotte Community Give Back Contest. This is a way for small area nonprofits who have a budget of less than $1 million to get exposure on your PBS station. And it's easy to enter. First, please go to our website at pbscharlotte.org, click on the link, and write just 3 paragraphs. First, describe your nonprofit's story and mission. Second, tell us how many people your organization serves and what your budget is. Finally, share with us how $10,000 in free television exposure would advance your cause. Please email your submission to communitygiveback@wtvi.org. Well, tick tock, my friends. Time's running out, and the deadline is Monday, February 16th at noon. We'll spotlight the 3 finalists here on Carolina Impact this spring, and you'll pick the winner by voting on our website. So good luck to everyone. Also, be sure to friend us on Facebook at WTVI Charlotte for a chance to win monthly prizes. This month, we're giving away a pair of tickets to the Great Smoky Mountains Railroad. Don't forget, you can also friend me at Amy Burkett. I love making new friends. And remember, we always want to hear your story ideas, so please email them to carolinaimpact@wtvi.org. Well, from all of us here at your public television station, WTVI PBS Charlotte, thanks so much for joining us, and we hope to see you back here again next time on Carolina Impact. Good night, my friends.
Funding for Carolina Impact is provided by the members of WTVI PBS Charlotte and by
the Philip L. Van Every Foundation is pleased to support our region's arts organizations and artists with profiles and feature stories on Carolina Impact.
a production of WTVI PBS Charlotte.